Chapter 2. The Number That Doesn't Feel Like Enough. Patricia's neighbor retired last year with a pension. The pension pays $3,400 a month. It will pay $3,400 a month for as long as she lives. It adjusts slightly for inflation. It does not go up when markets rise, and it does not go down when they fall. Her neighbor, a former public school librarian named Ruth, spends her Thursdays volunteering at the same library where she worked for 28 years, takes a trip every spring with her sister, and has, by Patricia's observation, stopped thinking about money in any active sense. The subject simply doesn't occupy her the way it once did. Patricia has $1.4 million in her 401k. She thinks about money constantly. This is one of the quieter paradoxes of modern American retirement, that the people with more by the conventional measure often feel less secure than people with less. That a retired librarian with a modest guaranteed income can sleep more soundly than an engineer with a seven-figure balance. People like Patricia are often told the anxiety is irrational. The money is there. The math works. They should feel fine. But the anxiety is not irrational. It is a rational response to a genuine structural difference, one that is rarely named clearly. A 401k balance is not income. It is the possibility of income, contingent on a long series of decisions and conditions that the account holder must navigate correctly for decades. A pension is income. The difference between those two things is not psychological, it is architectural. Ruth does not wonder in October of a bad market year whether she should change anything. The check arrives. It has always arrived. It will arrive next month. Patricia, in October of a bad market year, wonders whether she should rebalance, whether she has too much in equities, whether the sequence of this particular downturn, coming now at 61, close enough to retirement to matter, is the kind that derails a plan or merely tests it. She reads articles, she calls her advisor, she runs scenarios. She does all of this in addition to her job, which she still has, which she keeps partly because the math says she could stop, but something in her cannot. Ruth has a floor, Patricia has a balance. Those are different things. The floor is what Patricia is actually searching for when she runs the retirement calculation at 2 in the morning. She is not trying to find a larger number. She is trying to find the feeling that the number is settled, that it cannot be taken from her by a bad year, a bad sequence, or a decision made in a moment of fear. That feeling is what the pension provided, structurally, automatically, without requiring its holder to think about it. The 401k was built to accumulate assets. The responsibility for turning those assets into reliable lifetime income was left to the individual to be figured out, using tools they were mostly never taught, making decisions that compound for decades, in conditions that shift without warning. Most individuals are not prepared for this, not because they are unsophisticated, because it is genuinely hard. Jim Whitmore is 75 years old, and he has been a disciplined investor for 4 decades. He wrote out 1987. He wrote out 2001. He wrote out 2008, the worst of all of them, the year when his balance dropped by more than a third and stayed down for what felt like a very long time. He did not sell. He stayed the course. His advisor told him he was doing the right thing, and the market eventually proved the advisor correct, and Jim's conviction deepened each time. He has $2.4 million in his IRA, approximately 85% of it in equity index funds. He is proud of this. He considers it discipline. His wife Barbara considers it something else. She has watched him check the portfolio every day for 30 years. She has watched what happens to him in bad months, the shortened sleep, the short temper, the way he finds reasons to stay near his phone. She has never said anything directly because Jim experiences his own behavior as equanimity, and pointing out the gap between the behavior and the self-assessment has never seemed worth the cost. Last October, during a correction that lasted 6 weeks and took the index down 17%, she counted. He checked his phone 14 times in a single evening. He would have told you if asked that he was calm. Jim's situation contains a risk that his 40 years of disciplined investing did not prepare him for, because it is a risk that only exists at this stage of the journey, not the earlier one. During accumulation, time is an asset. A loss at 30 means decades of future contributions and compound growth ahead. The sequence of returns matters far less than the overall return. A bad year is a bad year. The horizon absorbs it. During distribution, time works differently. Jim is no longer contributing, he is drawing down, and he is now subject to mandatory withdrawals, a percentage of the account required every year, regardless of market conditions. If the market is down 30% when the withdrawal is due, he is selling at 30% off. That money does not recover. There is no future paycheck to absorb the loss. There is only what the account holds, what the government requires him to take, and what the market happens to be doing when the two intersect. Jim understands this in the abstract. He has read about it. He has not restructured anything. This is harder to explain than simple inertia. Jim is not a foolish man. He knows, intellectually, that the strategy that built the wealth was not designed to distribute it. He has had this conversation with his advisor. The advisor has suggested more than once that they discuss reallocation. Jim always agrees to discuss it. The discussion always ends without a change. Part of this is identity. Jim is, in his own self-understanding, a disciplined long-term investor. That identity was built over 40 years and validated repeatedly. To restructure the portfolio, to move meaningfully out of equities, to prioritize income stability over growth, would require revising that self-understanding. It would require acknowledging that the strategy that made him successful is no longer the right strategy, which feels at some level like acknowledging that the success itself was provisional. This is not vanity. It is how people work. Barbara said to him one evening, after a bad week, "How long can we wait for it to come back?" Jim said, "It always comes back." She said, "You keep saying that." She didn't say anything else. Later, she looked up Jim's actuarial life expectancy. Then she looked at how long the 2008 recovery took. She did not share this calculation with Jim. She just got a little quieter about money. There is a moment in the first year of retirement that many people describe with a version of the same language. They have left work, the account is large, the math has been checked, and then the first month passes, the first month without a paycheck, and something shifts. Not a crisis, not a collapse, something quieter. The balance, which spent 30 years growing, now shows a number slightly smaller than it was at the start of the month, a normal, healthy withdrawal, and yet, the arrow is pointing the other way now. That sentence, spoken by a man who retired at 63 after a careful and successful career in pharmaceutical engineering, captures something that no retirement calculator models. The directional change, the shift from accumulation to drawdown, the first moment of genuinely spending the savings rather than adding to them. For some people, this transition is smooth. For others, it produces an anxiety that no amount of financial reassurance fully resolves, because the anxiety is not really about the number. It is about the structure underneath the number, about whether what they have built will reliably do what they need it to do for as long as they need it to do it. Patricia has a number. She is looking for a structure. Ruth has a structure. She stopped looking.